Hello there and welcome to the video. Now I can't get enough of Leonid Stein, it seems, and we are going to continue to look at games by Leonid Stein. Now this one was played against the 7th world champion Vasily Smyslov. Smyslov was a great player, a great positional player, endgame player, nicknamed by many the Hand, because it seemed like whenever he picked up the hand he would find the right move. The natural moves, he would just find them with his hand. So Stein and Smyslov had played previously, and Smyslov had ground him down, with his positional style. So this time around, Stein decided to, take the game into his backyard and make it a brawl. Stein was a great attacking player, and once again we see a display of these talents. Now let's dive into the game. Stein had the white pieces, and he opened with the English opening, pawn to c4, knight to f6, knight to c3, e6. Black is staying flexible. Now we can actually transpose to a d4 opening and maybe get the Nimzo Indian. But knight f3 by Stein, we have b6, and once again we can transpose with d4. But Stein had other ideas, and he played e4. And bishop b7 now. So black is attacking e4. And white seems to have, some decent choices. He could play d3, maybe even bishop d3 and castle. But Stein plays an interesting move. Not a very obvious one. He plays queen e2, which, blocks in the bishop. It does protect the pawn. But what he's doing is he's introducing a fight. Smyslov played bishop b4, and now we see pawn to e5. The queen protects the pawn, not that it needed protection, but most importantly, the queen is now guarding the e4 square. So we have the knight and the queen. So now the knight must retreat. So even though the queen doesn't stand maybe particularly well in the way of the bishop, it does, facilitate, a space grab by white, and in what follows we get very creative play by white. So d4 now. He doesn't mind black taking now because there's no control of the e4 square. d6. Smyslov attacks the center, and Stein decides to clarify the situation and gets the bishop pair. Knight e7 by Smyslov, getting the knight back out. And now we see the creative side, and Stein, he wants to fight. So he sees that, for the foreseeable future, it might take some time to, get the bishop developed, and he decides to not castle kingside, but play h4. Try to utilize the rook from the starting square. So we can see that he might have in mind a push to h5, and maybe activating the rook here, if needed. For the moment, knight e7, Smyslov finishes development, h5, and now he takes on f3. This might be where things start to go a little bit off for black. He has given up the bishop pair, but he takes on e5. His idea was to win a pawn, but he does allow white to play h6 and sort of undermine the king side. Now, we would love to play g6 for black, which Smyslov didn't do. I think the problem is now we can take on e5, and if you take with a knight, you lost control of the square, and we have this double attack, which can't be good. So you lose control of the black squares, which you don't want to do. So instead, Smyslov took on h6. Now if we do the same thing, we can put a knight on g6, which would protect the rook. So bishop takes h6, and notice how Stein is sort of developing the pieces in a kind of a natural way, but very effectively. So bishop comes out in one move. The rook is kind of developed without doing anything. E takes d4, and now the rook gets the maximum scope. Rook takes h7, and knight f5 now by Smyslov. Bishop comes back to d4, and somehow the material is now equal. But here comes c5, and this looks slightly dodgy. Where does the bishop go? Well, Stein counterattacks. G4. Smyslov takes on D4 with a pawn. If you were to retreat the knight somehow, I think then this very nasty looking bishop H8 is interesting. Followed by queens at castles, and there's going to be a line of fire here on the D file. You know, also we have this in mind, and the bishop is nicely covering the F6 square. So Smyslov takes on D4. We take on F5, and Smyslov wants to keep it closed. He doesn't want to, you know, give the queen potential on the F file, so he plays E5, trying to hold on to his pawns. But now comes queen D5, hitting this, and note that can't play the queen because the rook hangs, so we need to find another way to defend the mate. So rook F8 and CT4. So White is keeping up a very lasting initiative throughout the game. Rook C8, and he keeps it going. Rook D1. Lining up here on D file, maybe setting up a pin there. Seems to be the theme of the game. There's a lot of pinning action going on, and especially towards the end of the game, as you'll see. Bishop to G2 now. And Smyslov attacks the bishop, although it's defended. Queen B7. Rook takes C4. And now Stein just wants to open things up. He takes on E5, and he wants to attack this king. Smyslov can indeed take with check, which he did, but king F1. White doesn't castle, but the king looks reasonably safe here. Queen B5 now by Smyslov. His idea is, okay, you can check and take the rook, but actually you can't because of the discovered check. It's going to be check to your king, and the ambulance is going to be for White. So setting up a threat to it, but simply king G1, and now this becomes a threat again. And Smyslov plays queen C6. He has to stop this threat. The other move would have been maybe rook here, but then White breaks through, queen check, takes on F7, rook takes D7, and this is going to end with mate. Rook D6, and the queen comes in. So Smyslov preferred to play after king G1, queen to C6, utilizing the pin. You know, the bishop's pinned, so you can't take with the bishop on C6. You can, however, take with the queen, and for the moment it doesn't look like much. Has White lost control of the attack? Has Smyslov managed to defend? We have equal material. The bishop is pinned. We're not winning anything. Like if we play king F1, rook somewhere, what's going on? It's just equal material, and White even has the worst pawn structure. But Stein had he definitely had anticipated this, and he had a thunder move here. Stunning move. What did White play? Can you see it? He played the absolute stunner here. Rook to H8. Ooh. Pinning the rook. Another pin. You know, cross pinning this. So eliminating black's pin by rook H8. So if you take, which, well, Smyslov actually didn't do, then I take this, and now we have a new pin. And this you can't do anything about. I'm going to win your knight, and going to be up a piece, and win the game. Smyslov tried rook G6. You know, getting the rook out of the way, but it doesn't change much because the bishop still comes to C6. The only thing that changes is that we get the G-pawn, but that's not enough. The rook comes in, and this was just a few more moves, and actually Smyslov resigned. So a fantastic game, very, very original play by Stein, who wanted to avoid his opponent's, you know, positional talents and make it a street fight. He managed to do that, held the initiative for much of the game with his ingenious play, and the final move, the final blow, rook H8, you know, he saw coming from afar, and what a move. I must say, Stein keeps on impressing me. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you next time.